Hello, everyone, and welcome back to AmourologyEd. This is a group of videos that talks about sex and alternative lifestyle education. My name is Krista Niederjohn. I'm your host. And today I would like to talk about disabilities and chronic pain, particularly disabilities and chronic pain as it refers to relationships. So again, in case you're new to this, I do come from a polyamorous background, so I tend to talk in terms of multiple relationships, but the things that I'm going to talk about also apply to any style of relationship. I don't judge, so you take it and do you. All right, so let's get started. I first wanted to start by talking about my own personal experience. I started having symptoms that I couldn't explain probably about, 7 years ago now. And I went to doctor, and they sent me to all sorts of specialists, and I did physical therapy for years and years and years. And in the end, I just kept running up against this thing that kept happening wherein the people that I'd be going to physical therapy with, for instance, would be like, are you sure your blood works come back negative? Are you sure that this is normal? Like, they were convinced that something else was wrong with me because I wasn't responding the way that they wanted me to. And by all accounts, I was healthy. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I finally got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is kind of a catch-all disease, right? It's like, we don't actually know what's wrong with you, so here's a diagnosis so you can go on living your life, which of course you can't. It's a lot more complicated than that. So I have chronic pain as part of this, and every day I live in pain, and it kind of goes in waves. But some days are worse than others, obviously, and it never goes away. I never have a zero pain day, which is really difficult to live with. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how that affects me in my day-to-day life. I think the hardest thing for me about living with chronic pain is my own personal guilt that I put on myself. And I am lucky enough to have really, really supportive partners and a really firm and solid structure to my life and my relationships that are really supportive. And a lot of people don't have that. So we're going to talk a little bit later about if you are a partner to somebody who is exhibiting chronic pain or has a disability, what can you do in order to help make them feel more at home and more comfortable with you. So as far as the guilt goes, there are days that I literally cannot get out of bed, that I just don't have the energy or I'm so painful, and the only thing that helps is laying down and hating my life. And there are days when I seem completely normal and you would never guess that anything was wrong. And that is really difficult, I think, for the people around me because it's really hard for them to guess what I'm feeling at any given moment. And I never know what I'm going to be from day to day. So it's really hard for me to commit to things. Like going out, for instance, or household chores. Household chores can be really, really difficult for me. For those of you that don't know, I live in a kind of a poly-commune household. I live with 5 different adults and 2 young adults, I'll say. And I've had to switch chores a lot, or there are times when I just can't keep up with things. And that, I think, more so than the guilt that the family structure puts on me for that, I feel really guilty. I feel like I'm letting people down. I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like I should be able to do better. And particularly when it comes to wanting to hang out with people, wanting to go out with friends. There's this wonderful analogy called the spoon theory. And if you're not familiar with it, I totally urge you to go and look it up. But it's just basically the idea that each spoon that you have equates to a piece of energy. And every time you do something like go out with friends or make breakfast or take a shower or get out of bed, it costs a certain amount of spoons. And so you'll often hear people talk about this idea of chronic pain in terms of spoons, or in disability in terms of spoons. Like, I don't have enough spoons for that. I'm out of spoons for the day. So for me, if I don't have enough spoons for something, it makes me feel like a failure. It makes me feel like I'm letting people down. And my friends start to notice that. My friends are like, why haven't you come out? Why can't you come out and do these things with us? Why do you go to bed so early all the time? Like it's really difficult. And more so again than them putting that on me, I put it on myself because I'm my own worst critic, and I feel like I should be able to do better, and I know what I've been capable of in the past, and even a year ago I could do things that I can't do today, and that is super really frustrating to feel. So something that comes along with this idea of guilt is actually also depression. uh, if I feel like I'm letting down people in my life, if I feel like I am not living up to my potential or the expectations I've set for myself, it tends to make me really depressed. If I go try to do something physical that I haven't tried to do in a while and find that I can't do it, even though I used to be able to do this thing a year ago, it makes me feel really depressed. It makes me hate my body. It makes me feel like, what's the point sometimes? And a lot of people with chronic pain or a lot of people with disabilities experience this kind of phenomena, this depression that comes along with it, because it can be really, really difficult to function when your body is constantly telling you you can't do things. So, as a partner of somebody who is experiencing chronic pain or a disability, what do you do? How do you make this easier or better? The first thing that I have to tell you is believe them. It's so easy when you see someone acting completely normal most of the time, particularly with things like fibromyalgia, where it's kind of an invisible ailment. People don't really see it. People who didn't know me really well wouldn't even know sometimes because I'm so good at hiding it. And so if you have a partner that experiences chronic pain or has a disability, believe them when they say they're having a bad day. Believe them when they say they can't get out of bed. It's so easy to think that they're just being lazy, or that they should just try harder, or that they're just not doing something that they should be doing. And I am here to tell you that I promise you, I promise you that these people that are experiencing this pain are doing everything they can to get rid of it, because it sucks. You don't want that. And so we oftentimes go through days that are really, really difficult for us and just push it down and hide it because we don't want people to know, or because that's just what we do. I just I just have to push through it. That's just what I do sometimes. And so when I come home and I'm like, hey, I just really need to go to bed. I can't, I'm out of spoons for the day. Or I sleep in till 10 o'clock and then I just get up for an hour and then I'm like, nope, that's not going to happen. I'm going back to bed, and I sleep for another 3 hours. Like, it's not me being lazy. It's me being honest and doing self-care. And it's really, really difficult if you have a partner that doesn't even believe you that that's what's happening. The second thing I would recommend as a partner is to validate the person who's experiencing this, who's going through this. It can be really, really, really difficult to get out of bed some days, and just hearing a simple, hey, you're doing really great. Hey, I see you. Hey, I know that this was really hard. I really appreciate all the work you put into this, is goes such a long way, because it's the little things that you take for granted that we have to work so hard to do sometimes. And sometimes it's so easy. And so it's just having a partner that says things like, hey, you're doing your best. Hey, it's okay if you have to sleep today. That's okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for taking care of yourself. Like, that's super validating, and that goes a long way in making people feel comfortable. Another tip I have for partners is don't blame the person. I can't tell you how many times I've had people blame me for my disability and say that, well, I'm just not thinking positively enough, or I am just not trying hard enough, or I am just giving in and being lazy about it. And that sucks, because again, I'm doing everything I fucking can. I'm doing everything I can. And it really, really is hard when you have a partner that comes to you and says, hey, why are you being this way? Why are you like this? Yeah, that's pretty terrible. And I know it can be really, really difficult when you feel like the person isn't spending as much time with you as you want them to, or when they're not pulling their weight around the house, or when they're not doing the things that they promised that they would do. I know it can be really tough to live with that. But blaming the person for that disability, blaming the person for doing those things is not going to help anybody in that situation. And this all brings me to my next tip and last tip. One of my very favorite mantras that I use over and over in just life is it's not about me. And this goes for so many things. It applies to so many different types of things, but especially when it comes to things like chronic pain and having a partner that's experiencing that. Because yes, sometimes I stay in bed all day, and sometimes I don't get to spend as much time with you as I would like, and sometimes I let you down, and sometimes I cancel plans last minute. But please, please, please know that this is not about you, that I still love you, and I still want to spend time with you, and I'm just as upset, probably more upset about this than you are, and I'm doing what I need to do. And I think that this goes a long way for people who are experiencing this kind of turmoil in their relationships, whether it be romantic or platonic relationships, because it's really, really difficult to manage a social life when you're dealing with a disability. And so having people around you that have that understand that you have their best intentions at heart and understand that it's not about them can be huge, can be monumental. And I'm not saying that it's not difficult. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't come to me when you're feeling upset or overwhelmed or hurt or anything like that, because I want to have that dialogue. But in the end, it's not about you. In the end, I'm not doing this to hurt you, or I'm not doing this because I don't want to contribute around the house or because I am lazy. Like it's not what that's about. And understanding that is paramount. So, one final thing that I wanted to leave you all with today is targeted at those who experience a disability of some sort or chronic pain or whatever you're dealing with. It could be depression or anxiety. All of this applies to that. But I want you to know straight from me, and I want you to remind yourself this every day if you need to, that you are valid. That, I mean, you can say it with me, like, I am valid. Self-validation is super important. So I am valid, and I am safe, and I am enough. In this given moment, whatever that means, for me, I am enough. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me on that. I know that it's a kind of a heavy topic to talk about, particularly early on in these videos, but I think it's something that's super important and something that I'm really passionate about. So I appreciate you going on this journey with me. And if you like what you see and you want to see more of it, please subscribe and check out my website, AmourologyEd. You can find me on all social media platforms at AmourologyEd. And please join my Facebook group if you want all up-to-date news and firsthand look at these types of videos. So yeah, I think it's a great place to have these open, honest discussions about really, really difficult topics. And I love each and every person that's already on that group. So thank you so much for supporting me in that. If you have something that you would like to hear about or comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always open.